An expose on the reality of life inside Guantanamo Bay. Tuesday, we're bringing you the 5th installment of Julian Assange's new show featuring a former inmate from the controversial prison. We go now to RT's Laura Smith live in London with more on the interview and what it reveals on the workings of the war on terror. So this sounds like another hard-hitting interview. What can you tell us about the guests and the show itself?
Yeah, certainly. It seems to be looking ahead to it. It's the 5th episode of The World Tomorrow, and during it, Julian Assange speaks to people who've had first-hand experience of the effects of the war on terror. One of them is Asim Qureshi, who used to be a corporate lawyer, but now campaigns for detainees of the war on terror through an organisation called Caged Prisoners. And that organisation was set up by the second interviewee, who's a man called Moazzam Begg. He himself spent 3 years in Guantanamo Bay without charge before being released without charge. During his detention, Moazzam Begg actually signed a confession which said that he had been prepared to fight alongside al-Qaeda. He provided assistance to al-Qaeda members, despite knowing that they could commit terrorist attacks against the US. During the programme, he talks about how he came to sign that confession. Let's hear him.
What brought me to the point where I would sign something like this was being tied up with my hands behind my back to my legs, with a hood placed over my head, being punched and kicked, listening to the sound of a woman screaming next door, I'm told, or led to believe is my wife, my children's pictures being waved in front of me, and being asked by these interrogators, when do you think you're going to see them again? What do you think happened to them the night that we took you from them?
Moazzam Begg during the show goes into great detail about the horrors of his detention in Guantanamo Bay and other prison camps, and what he experienced, the immense sense of injustice that he felt during his detention. He was ultimately released without charge in 2005 by President Bush, despite objections from the CIA, the FBI and the Pentagon at the time. He then, when he got home to Britain, he sued the British government for complicity in his ordeal, and he reached an out-of-court financial settlement with the government. Since then, though, he set up this organisation, Caged Prisoners, and he and Asim Qureshi have been actively trying to end this practice of detention without trial, advocating on behalf of individual prisoners to either get them out of camps like Guantanamo or to get them at least due process. They're regular media commentators as well. And Asim Qureshi, during the programme, talks about what drives him to carry on with his fight.
Seeing Guantanamo, seeing indefinite detention without charge in the UK, seeing the Extradition Act, you know, all of these things culminate in telling you, well, actually, the law is being abused here, and for a very specific purpose. And all of that kind of convinced me that I needed to be involved with something that was working against these policies. And Caged Prisoners is an important voice for Muslims. It's an empowering voice.
They also talk about the future, so both have their own visions about what's happened in the Middle East and what the US has achieved in its war on terror. They say that they don't think that al-Qaeda was ever as powerful or as organised, or the nature of the organisation that it's been made out to be by Western powers, but they say terror is very much still thriving today. Let's hear that.
The United States didn't just attack Osama bin Laden. They didn't just go after him. They went after nations, and they killed tens of thousands of people in the process. So bin Laden may have come and gone. It's irrelevant, because those symptoms that bin Laden was addressing are still there.
That's just a little bit of the programme. You can see the whole thing, which is being broadcast for the first time on RT tomorrow, Tuesday, at 11:30 GMT. Don't miss it.
All right. Thanks very much, RT's Laura Smith, live for us in London.